Poland has paraded its military hardware on the streets of Warsaw. The Armed Forces Day Parade traditionally celebrates Poland's victory over Bolshevik forces in the 1920 Battle of Warsaw,
Did you know that if all goes as planned, Poland will soon become a new military superpower in Europe by firing up a massive amount of heavy metal and building more armored divisions than any other continental nation? Poland is poised to become Europe's military superpower, according to military analysts. Warsaw will have greater firepower than the combined forces of Britain, France, Germany, and Italy, thanks to the purchase of more than 1,000 tanks and 600 pieces of artillery as part of a $4.9 billion purchase for 250 M1 Abrams. This heavy metal has already begun to materialize in the form of 33 new M1 Abrams, which will replace a comparable number of T-72 tanks built in Russia. The 1000 K2 Black Panther main combat tanks from South Korea, the first 10 of which have already arrived, are the key procurement. Over the following 10 years, a manufacturer in Poland will start production on at least 800 of the tanks under license. Another $10 billion purchase has also been placed for missiles, including 218 K239 Chunmoo South Korean equivalents and 468 HIMARS rocket launchers that have proven to be successful in Ukraine. The Poles have also shown interest in leasing MQ-9 Reaper attack drones and purchasing 100 Apache attack helicopters. In a recent analysis, IISS emphasized that Poland was a key actor in the defense of Northeast Europe because of its borders with Belarus, Germany, and the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad. There is broad public support for the increase in defense spending as a result of the Wagner group of mercenaries moving to Belarus and Moscow's threat to install nuclear missiles there on Poland's eastern flank. Warsaw has planned to quadruple the strength of its army to 300,000 soldiers while spending billions on armor, aircraft, missiles, and drones because Russia is now seen as a profoundly hostile threat. Poland's military has always been strong because of its proximity to Russia, but the invasion of Ukraine has radically altered Warsaw's perspective. With the swift rise in defense spending, Brig Ben Berry of the think tank International Institute for Strategic Studies remarked, "It has been a transformative moment. The Polish interpretation of Ukraine is that Russia will remain very hostile for a very long time, and they recognize the lessons Ukraine has learned." He continued by saying Poland was firing up massive amounts of heavy metals by aiming to boost its armored divisions from 4 to 6. Many people may be surprised by this, but Poland's upcoming emergence as a superpower in Europe is inevitable. The 1945 Yalta Conference's Tribute Act, Putin's scheme to restore Russian dominance throughout Eastern Europe all the way to the German border, will likewise be in its latter stages of death at this time. We are not reading any tea leaves when it comes to Poland's growth. It is not a prophecy. It is more of an unavoidable outcome of the shifting of the Earth's tectonic plates since 1990, a geopolitical change that, up until recently, went mostly ignored. In his best-selling book, The Next 100 Years, Professor George Friedman provided a thorough geopolitical overview of Eurasia. He claims that Poland will overtake Israel as the superpower of the Middle East and Europe. Israel initially attained its status as a result of the USA's complete military, political, and economic commitment to it. By establishing a Polish bloc including Poland, the Baltic states, Ukraine, and other East European nations, America would complete its hat trick and dethrone Russia as the dominant force. When the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth covered the area from the Baltic to the Black Sea in the 17th century, this would send history back in time. The US's commitment to the region and its need to neutralize Moscow, Paris, and Berlin are crucial factors in this. Even if it hasn't yet realized it, it has no option. The conflict between the USA and Russia in Ukraine is a proxy conflict with China, possibly even a practice run for future conflicts. Since France and Germany's goal is to cozy up to Russia once more and resume business as normal as it was before February 24th of this year, the US can no longer rely on their backing. All three of them oppose US dominance in Europe. Despite France and Germany's pretense to the contrary, all three are adamant that Ukraine should submit. Only Poland and Britain members of NATO, are currently willing to oppose Russian imperialism. Once Sweden and Finland join NATO, we'll probably be able to add at least 2 other Scandinavian nations to this list. All other European nations are either too economically tied to Russia, are too pacifist, or are simply unaware of what would happen to them if Russia prevails. A security agreement between Britain, Poland, and Ukraine was struck in Kiev on February 17, 2022, just 1 week before Putin invaded the country. Does this make Boris Johnson a forerunner of future events? No, but it does show a mental clarity on the seriousness of the situation that is unique to Western Europe. This historic agreement has been strengthened by this month's NATO summit in Madrid, where its leaders decided to bolster Western defenses by doubling the number of instant readiness troops to 300,000, a 7-fold increase, and establishing the U.S. 5th Army HQ in Poland on a permanent basis. What's more, Poland has promised to increase its army to 300,000. It will have the biggest and most potent armed forces in Europe in 5 years. However, Sir Patrick Saunders, the newly appointed British Chief of the General Staff, made the strongest declaration yet when he said last week that Britain is facing its 1937 moment, the traditional light bulb moment when it started to realize the danger posed by Hitler. The sickeningly childish idea that there will never be another war in Europe is being pushed out of the end of history by countries like Britain, America, Poland, and Ukraine. This illusion has given the bad guys a lot of access, even though they are always present and can look reformed or invisible. One thing that history and geopolitical studies in particular have taught us throughout the years is that history is cyclical. Whether you like it or not, this means that the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse will periodically return to life on this planet. It implies that all idealists and pacifists in the world collectively are helpless in the face of the 4's predictable recurrence every 50 to 70 years or so: disease, war, famine, and destruction. The cycle is well underway. A disease called the COVID pandemic affected us. We currently have the Ukraine war and Palestine. Due to global inflation, as well as a lack of food and energy, famine is imminent. Additionally, the destruction mentioned above is starting to show up in the breakdown of social bonds inside civilizations and between nations on a global scale. The current trend is toward deglobalization. This process must go on relentlessly and gradually. Though some are more foresighted than others, the majority of Western governments have not yet tackled it head-on. However, given that we don't want to terrify the electorate, it might be for the best that this government response is slow. Poland is becoming a superpower, not just military-wise, but also on the economic front. Thanks to a post-communist economic miracle, Poland is on track to surpass Britain in wealth by 2030, if things continue as they are. Future-oriented industries like electronics and battery production have taken off in the nation. With the Russian wolf at the door, Warsaw is utilizing the nation's economic might to make it a formidable war force. It has gained allies among several neighboring nations as a result of its willingness to stand up to Moscow. Poland's star is rising as Germany and France wrangle over how to respond to the Ukraine crisis. Poland increased its defense budget from 2.5% of GDP last year to 4% this year, with intentions to maintain or possibly enhance these levels for the foreseeable future. This makes Warsaw's war chest relatively one of the largest in NATO. Polish defense spending will thus be much greater than that of the UK, which only intends to reach 2.5% by 2030, and more than twice as much as that of other key continental NATO members, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain. This suggests that of all the NATO nations in Europe, Poland may soon have the best and largest land fighting capability. With about 200,000 soldiers on the front lines, even France could soon find itself outnumbered by Poland. The Polish buildup puts pressure on Germany to play its fair bit in the alliance and serves as a deterrent to Russia, whose Kaliningrad enclave borders Poland on land. That's all for now. What do you think of Poland's rise as a military superpower? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and for more videos like this, subscribe to our channel. See you with another video.